Welcome back to the Garza Gaming Channel. Today we're going to talk about Season 9 and all the different changes that's coming along with it, right? But for all of y'all that are usually in our Discord, you probably see me MIA for the last few days, and that's because I was sick as a dog in bed for like the last 2 or 3 days. I ended up getting my third COVID shot, man, and my body did not like it at all. But this morning I was able to gather enough energy to get out of bed and make at least a makeshift studio in my basement in order to be able to do this video, right? Now, there's a lot of changes that's coming with Season 9. Way too many to be able to cover into one video, man. If I was to do everything in one video, this would be like an hour and a half type video. So what I ended up doing is actually dividing up this update video into 3 episodes. So in today's first episode, we're going to cover the new game mode and then relics. And the second episode, we're going to cover various different changes to items. And then in the third episode, we'll finish it off with the changes to various different gods and anything we might have left out in episode 1 and 2. But hey, man, without any further ado, let's get into it. So here we go with our changes to Season 9. So Season 9 actually goes live January 25th. So if you haven't finished your Transformers Battle Pass yet, you get until January 25th to do so. I know between moving and me being laid out sick for the last 3 days, I haven't got a chance to finish mine out. So I, like many of you, probably need to get my butt in gear and go ahead and finish that out, because January 25th will be here faster than we know it, right? So one of the biggest changes that they're making to the game that they haven't made in a very long time is adding an actual permanent game mode. So what they ended up doing is they're going to actually add a game mode called Slash, which by reading this is pretty much a combination between Siege and Clash, right? Additionally, what they're going to end up doing is taking out Siege and Clash from being able to random queue for those modes, but you still be able to play them in customized type games. By the reading this is Slash is going to be a 5v5 type game. The map has a butterfly type look where it looks like it's going to have some jungle, some towers, and some other sentinel type games or enemies, I should say. So that should be pretty interesting. I'll probably check that out once it goes live. Okay, so now the Roman Arena. So one of the biggest changes they're making to Arena is the fact that they're going to give you 20% more gold and 20% more XP. The reason being is because there's a lot of new relics and a lot of new items that have additional tiers that's going to cost you more gold to get. So this way, unlike Conquest where you have all day to make gold, they're trying to allow Arena players to also be able to take advantage of these new tiers for the relics and items. So that's really cool. I think that 20% might be a little low, to tell you the truth, but we'll see how it works out. I think that about instead of 12 increase in gold, a 14 increase in gold, so a 40% increase, I think would have been probably a little bit more in line from what I've seen. But hey, who knows, man? We'll check it out, and I'm sure that they'll adjust on the fly as this thing goes. Okay, so here we go with the new relics, right? So what's going to end up happening is relics are getting a third type tier. So an initial relic is going to still be free. Your second relic that you get at, I believe is level 12, is going to cost you 300 gold, right? And later on, you can actually buy a third level to that relic that's going to cost you an additional 500 gold. And the relics are pretty much branch out, pretty much like items. But the really interesting aspect of this is you can actually max out your tier 3 relics at level 1 by actually paying 1100 gold. So it's more or less like buying a starter type item, right? So Aegis Amulet. So Aegis Amulet is getting Aegis of Acceleration. So using this item makes you invulnerable to damage and healing for 1.5 seconds and prevents you from taking any actions. You may still move, however. Each instant of damage that you're prevented by having that buff on you provides you with 7% movement speed for up to 4 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So what that means is when you use that Aegis, right, and you're invulnerable, if you get hit by 3 different attacks, you actually get 3 stacks. So when that Aegis wears off, you're gonna have a 21% movement speed buff, which is gonna be craziness. So it's almost like getting those, boots plus Aegis into one, which is pretty cool. Okay, so Ages of Judgment. So using this item also makes you invulnerable to damage and healing for 1.5 seconds, and prevents you from taking any action. So obviously, when you hit your Ages, you can't cast or attack. You may still move, however. At the end of the duration, you explode, dealing 100 plus 50% of the prevented damage as magical damage in a 30 unit radius. The damage dealt by this effect is capped at 50% of your max health. So this is very interesting. It's almost like having Aegis, but when you come out of Aegis, it's like having almost a Pride Wind type effect, where you're gonna, instead of having the shield though, you're just gonna explode and then do that additional damage. So that's gonna be very interesting. I can very easily see some tanks taking advantage of this right here, or maybe even initiating with it. So that's going to be very interesting. Okay, so the upgrade to Belt of Frenzy. So Belt of the Berserker. Using this item grants all gods, allied gods within 70 units 30% increased damage dealt to all targets, including objectives, and 50% attack speed increase, and it decays every half a second for up to 6 seconds. So what happens is when you pop this, everybody around you gets a 30% increase in damage, and then a 50% attack speed increase, and then for every second afterwards it starts reducing until it goes away, until it fades away. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Belt of Unstable Hunger. Using this item grants all allies gods within 70 units 15% increased damage dealt to all targets, including objectives, and 25% attack speed increase for 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a long time, man. If you earn a kill or an assist on an enemy god while this buff is active, the duration refreshes. This can only occur once per use. Wow. So this item as it is lasts 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a lifetime in Arena, but if you actually get an assist on the kill, you don't even have to make the kill. Just come off with an assist on the kill, you actually rebuffs again or refreshes again. So realistically, you could have this buff on you for up to 20 seconds, which would make really, really nice when you're in a team type fight. So yeah, man. Okay, so moving on. So Blink. So this is a very interesting one, actually. Corrupt Blink Ruin. So using this item will allow you to teleport up to 45 units away instantly. So a regular blink, right? This item cannot be used if you have taken or dealt damage within the last second. So regular blink type stats there. So but here comes the interesting part. So on blinking, you slow all enemies for movement speed and attack speed by 15% within a 25 unit radius for up to 2.5 seconds. So when you blink in, anybody that's around you within 25 units gets their movement speed debuffed and their attack speed debuffed by 15%. Eesh, that's going to be a pretty nice initiator, especially for some assassins, right? So Scorching Blink Ruin. So using this item will allow you to teleport up to 45 units away like the other ones. But the interesting part is you get almost like an Agni type attack. So what happens is when you blink in, you leave behind you a trail of wildfire that deals 22 damage plus 4 2 damage per level to enemies that pass through it. And it ticks for every half second for up to 4 seconds. This item cannot be used if you have taken or dealt any damage within the last 3 seconds. So that's really interesting to have like an Agni type of fire trail behind you. Here we go. Brace of Radiance, my favorite item to use, right? My favorite relic, I should say. So a Bracer of Brilliance is the actual update to this, or the tier 3 to this. So places a radiant glow on the target location for 90 seconds. Allies who move through this glow gain 20% increase in power and 20% movement speed. 20% increase in power, 20% movement speed. That is huge for up to 8 seconds. The fragment acts as a sentry ward. If destroyed, the cooldown of the relic is reduced by 20 seconds. So if they destroy it, it reduces the cooldown by 20 seconds before you can cast it again. So, Bracer of Illumination. Place a radiant glow of the target on the ground for up to 90 seconds. Allies who move through this glow and gain 10% increase in power if above half health and 15% movement speed if below half health for up to 8 seconds. The fragment acts as a sentry ward on use, and a light sprint appears, patrolling back and forth, revealing enemies along the way. Interesting, interesting. So it has like a enemy reveal, I guess, around it, so you can actually see invis type gods, I guess, within that 90 seconds, or 90 seconds, within that area of effect. Is what it sounds like. But one thing that I find interesting is the Breakthrough of Brilliance, right? It said nothing about being below or above 50% health. It just says that allies who move through it will gain a 20% increase in power and a 20% movement speed for up to 6 seconds. It says nothing about having that stipulation where this Bracer of Illumination does, right? It says that if you're below half health, you get the attack speed. I'm sorry, if you're above half health, you get the attack power. If you're below half health, you get the movement speed. So that's very interesting. That's definitely very interesting. I'm going to have to check that out once it goes live. So then we move to Greater Meditation Cloak. So they removed the cooldown reduction effect from this. So that kind of sucks. That's pretty much the only big change that went into it, really, other than they just buffed the healing restored by, another 4. And then increase the missing health scaling by 1%. But they decrease the cooldown by 10 seconds. But the upgrade to this is Cloak of Ascetic. And using this item causes you to enter into a meditative state where nearby allies gods within 35 units restore 40 plus 7% of their missing health and mana each tick. Heals occur once every second for up to 4 seconds. Each pulse reduces cooldowns for all abilities by 1.5 seconds. So not only are you getting more health and mana, but you actually each tick is reducing your cooldowns by 1.5 seconds. So that's pretty huge, man. That's definitely very interesting. Now, Cloak of the Avatar. Using this item causes the entire you to enter a meditative state where nearby allies gods within 35 units restored 12 plus 6% of their missing health and mana per tick. Heals occur once every second for up to 4 seconds, and you also gain a protective barrier of wind that explodes if an enemy comes within 15 units, knocking them back. Wow. So not only are you getting the heal from this, you're actually going to get a more or less a knockback shield. That is a very, very interesting addition to that item. Actually, I think more people are actually going to use that, because not only do you get the healing if you're running, to have that knockback, especially in a jumping guy tries to get up on you. That could be pretty cool for sure. So Cursed Ankh. Shield damage increased from 50 to 75%. So they increased this shield on this by 50%. So that's pretty good. And they added 10% increased damage taken debuff when healed by god abilities. Interesting. So Blighting Ankh. Using this item reduces the healing received by all enemy gods within 55 units by 60% for 10 seconds and removes 75% of any currently applied shields. Enemies that are healed by god abilities while affected by this curse take 20% more damage from all sources for the duration of this curse. All healing reduced by this effect is instead distributed to your allies in a 40 unit radius around you. So that's pretty cool, man. So what's going to end up happening is when you curse somebody with this Blighting Ankh, the healing that they would receive from like their Aphrodites or their Hells actually get distributed amongst your allies, giving you an extra heal that the enemy wish they could have gotten, right? So that's pretty cool. That's definitely cool. So moving on, Drowned Ankh. So using this item reduces the healing received from all enemy gods within 55 units by 40% for up to 10 seconds and removes 75% of any given shields, right? So enemies that are healed by god abilities while affected by this curse create a pool of miasma beneath them that persists for up to 6 seconds. So it's kind of like a Jurgermonder type pool. So when you use this item and you actually stick it on somebody, it drops this pool under them. And the longer they're in it, they're going to be taking 2% of the enemy's current health for every half a second that they're in there, right? And the cool thing about this, it actually refreshes the debuff on them while they're in that effect or in that pool. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to see once that goes live. So the Heavenly Wings upgrade right here, so it's going to be Entangled Wings. So using this item increases the movement speed of all allied gods within 55 units by 20% for 5 seconds, I believe, and making you immune to slows. On use, the relic also roots enemies around you for up to 1 second. So that's interesting. So now when you pop your boots, which I like to call, but it's their wings, but I call it boots. So when you pop your boots, not only are you going to give you yourself and your team that movement speed, but you're also going to be able to root the enemy for 1 second, allowing you to get that head start when you're trying to run for your life, right? So that's pretty cool. So a hasten wing. So using this item increases the movement speed of all allied gods within 55 units for up to 20% for 4 seconds. And it makes them immune to slows and grants haste, causing them to be immune to basic movement penalty. For the duration, and successful attacks increase the duration by 1 second for up. So this is pretty much like a hasten katana mix. So not only are you getting that, the added 20% movement speed for 4 seconds, you're also going to get that hasten katana type of passive where your basic attacks, as long as you connect with your basic attacks, you're not going to see that movement penalty. Or actually, you're not going to see that movement penalty for up to 4 seconds. And for the duration, every basic attack increase that you connect with increases duration for 1 second up to an additional 4 seconds. That's what this looks like. So that's pretty interesting, man. This is going to be a really, really nice relic to have for a lot of of hunters. Izazami is the first one that comes to mind in Cupid, right? Maybe in Apollo too. This craziness. Okay, so emblem of increasing peril, right? So emblem of increasing peril. Using this item slows the movement speed of all allied enemy gods within 35 units for 30% for up to 5 seconds. Their attack speed is also reduced by 25% for the duration. Additionally, their damage dealt is reduced by 15%. If an enemy deals 10% of the allied god's maximum health in this time, the debuff effects are increased by 10% each, stacking up to 3 times. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. So additionally, their damage dealt is reduced by 15%. So they're going to get a damage reduction debuff. If an enemy deals 10% of an ally's god's max health, so if they hit you for at least 10% of your max health while they have the debuff on them, the debuff effects are increased by 10%, each stacking up to 3 times. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So you get actually a compound benefit by popping this, because not only is the enemy debuff, but the more damage they do to you, the more they get debuffed. So that's a very interesting aspect. So an emblem of trembling terror. So using this item obviously slows the movement speed of all enemy gods within 35 units for 30% of their movement speed for 5 seconds. Now their attack speed is also reduced by 25% for the same duration. Additionally, the damage that they deal is reduced by 15%, but here's a change here is if any enemy is dealt 30% of their max health during the duration, they are trembled. So additionally, their damage dealt is reduced by 50% if an enemy is dealt 30% of their max health during the duration, they are trembled. So while you pop this and debuff the enemy with this, if you do 30% damage to them, they actually get stunned for 1.5 seconds. So yeah, that'd be really cool when you're trying to chase somebody down. So not only do you get that debuff on them and slow them down, but if you do at least 30% damage on them, it forces them to go into that 1.5 stun, allowing you to close the gap a lot quicker. So yeah, that could be really deadly. Okay, so the update to your magic shell, right? So fortifying shell. So using this item applies a shield to themselves and allies within 35 units for 100 health plus 12 health per god level for 3 seconds. So you're gonna get you're gonna give yourself and your allies a shield within 35 units. Now that's gonna be equal to 100 health plus 12 health per level, right? For only 3 seconds, though. Additionally, all allies take 50% reduction in damage from basic attacks for the duration. When the shield is broken, however, or expires, allies gain a new buff providing 20% damage mitigation and 20% movement speed for 3 seconds. So you're going to get 3 seconds of this shield, which is going to give you that 100 health plus the 12 health per level. And then once that goes away, you're going to get a second buff that's going to last an additional 3 seconds. That's going to give you that damage mitigation and going to give you 20% movement speed. That's going to be insane, dude. That is a nice escape type item right there. So Phantom Shell. So using this item applies a shield to themselves. So using this item is going to apply a shield to you and your allies like normal for up to 35 units, but you're going to get 150 health plus 15 health per level for 4 seconds. So you're getting 1 second more. Additionally, the allies take 50% reduction damage from basic attacks for the duration. Using this item also allows you and your allied gods to pass through players and player-made objects. So this is very interesting. They kind of combined the shell and the phantom veil into one item. So instead of just getting that phantom veil, which is pretty much only used going against an Odin, I would say, at least this will have a dual benefit. So if you get a Ymir and Odin, you can pass through their walls, but additionally you still get that health shield, right, for you and your allies. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool little blend there. Okay, so beads. So chaotic beads. So using this item removes all crowd controlling effects and makes you immune to any new ones for up to 2 seconds. Any CC effect that is cleansed during this time, including on activation, sends out a homing projectile to the enemy who applied it, dealing 7% of their maximum health. So say that you get into an Artemis trap. You're already in the trap. As soon as you pop the beads, that homing beacon is going to go hit that Artemis, right? So the cool thing about this is you can already be in the CC when you pop it and it causes that effect, or you can be just within the 2 seconds and then be getting hit with that CC and then causing that effect, which is going to give that that 7% of their max health damage to them. So that's very interesting, man. That's definitely interesting. You could actually play this really well, especially with Artemises where you have pretty much control over the CC time. So you can actually pop this on purpose and then walk into a trap to do that 7% health damage on her, especially if you see two of your teammates that's already running her down, right? So that's very interesting. That'll definitely come into play for some strategic plays. Okay, so the next one is temporal beads, and using this item removes all crowd control effects and makes you immune to any new ones for 2 seconds. Reduces active cooldowns by 3 seconds. Nothing. I mean, yeah, you get a 3 second cooldown reduction on this one, but temporal beads doesn't do nothing for me, man. The 3 second cooldowns, I don't think is going to be as awesome as having that. That 7% of their max health against CC. But hey, it is what it is. Sometimes 3 seconds is a lifetime when you're trying to get that last ult to get that finished. What he said, the game winner ult, right? Like that old Cuckoo Khan ult at the very end, or that Nox ult at the end, or the Zeus. 3 seconds is a lifetime in Arena. Okay, but anyway, moving on. Thorns, update to Thorns. So Thorns of Overgrowth, right? So using this item reflects 25% of all damage you take before mitigations for the next 5 seconds. So and what it does is it shoots it back to the owner as magic damage. If you are dealt 120 plus, this has to be plus your level damage. Or maybe it's time your level damage. It has to be plus because, I think it was like, 25 levels? We're talking almost 3,000 damage. So it has to be plus your level while the effect is active. The effect will end early. While this is active, enemies can only lifesteal from you for 50% of their total lifesteal. Additionally, you gain 5% movement speed and attack speed for each enemy god within 20 units. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know what that star means, to tell you the truth. That usually a star would mean multiplied, right? So it would be if you are dealt 120 times your level damage while the effect is active. So if it was a 25, so you're looking at about what, close to 3,000 damage that you'd be. I don't know, man. We're gonna have to see. They're gonna have to clear that one up for me, because I mean, 120 plus. You're if you say your max level at 25, we're only looking at 155 damage. Heck, you can almost do that in yeah, you probably can't do that with one basic attack. So it has to be multiplied, and if that's the case, man. That can go as high as 3,000 plus health. So that's interesting. We're gonna have to get clarification on that one. So thorns of sapping strength, right? So using this item reflects 35% of all damage you take before mitigations for the next 2 seconds to the person that caused the damage to you in the way of magical damage. Now, while this is active, enemies can only lifesteal from you for 75% of their total lifesteal. Each basic attack from the enemy gods reduces the cooldown of this item by half a second. Decrease cooldown from 120 seconds to 80 seconds. Now, obviously, the 35% reflective damage is pretty much easy to understand, but what I'm having a little difficulty understanding is that each basic attack from the enemy god reduces the cooldown of this item by half a second. I'm not sure if they're saying that 120 seconds is the max cooldown on this item, and depending on how many times you get hit with a basic attack, it can go down as low as 80 seconds on the cooldown, or if depending on how many basic attacks you get, you can reduce the cooldown of this item by half a second. Additionally, they decrease the cooldown from 120 seconds to 80 seconds. I don't know. This is very confusing to me. So I guess we're just going to have to wait to see how this actually plays out once it goes live. Okay, so Sundering Spear upgrade. So it's Sundering Blast. So what happens with this one is you fire a bolt that travels 70 units, which is a long way, stopping at the first god it hits, splashing in a 20 unit radius. So it splashes into a small AoE and dealing 15% of their current health as true damage and reducing any active shields by 75%. Targets hit take an additional 5% increased damage for 5 seconds. So they get a 5% damage debuff for 5 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. The relic has 2 charges. So you can actually fire off this spear twice. So you're going to get 2 shots, right? And every time you hit, whether it be within the AoE or direct hit, you're going to put that 5-second debuff where whoever you hit is going to take 5% increase in damage. And it says it stacks. So it's going to be, if you hit them twice, they're going to take an increase of 10% more damage. Oh, man, I can already see this being nasty, especially if you're playing with a Nox. As soon as she locks somebody down, if somebody's behind her, her wingman can shoot this off twice, and then she hits that AoE. Ooh, goodness. Especially if she walked through a bracer radiance on top of that. Ooh, man, there's a lot of strategic play that you can use with that. So that's pretty cool. Okay, Sundering Siphon. So fire a bolt. What happens with this when you use it? You fire a bolt that travels 50 units, so a little shorter by 25. Was it 25 or 20? By 20. So you fire a bolt that travels 50 units and stops on the first god hit, right? Reducing the active shields by 75%. So it still has that active shield reduction, and linking them to you. So almost like Osiris, you get linked to that whoever you hit. For the next 4 seconds, they're dealt 5% of their current health as true damage every second that you receive, and you receive half that an amount in healing. So this is almost like an Osiris type tether. So what happens is when you hit somebody with this spear, you tether in to them, and they're going to be taking 5% of their current health and damage, and you're going to get 2.5% of that as a health tick, almost like a health regen tick for yourself, as long as you're tethered to them. So that's a very interesting addition to that item. Enemies can break the link if they move past 60 units from you. The relic has 2 charges. A second hit on the same target will refresh the duration. So this is interesting for the simple fact that you can use this almost like in an Ares chain. So if you have 2 gods, you can actually tether to 2 different gods and be getting healed from each of them, as you're moving along. Of course, because if you hit the same god twice, all you're doing is refreshing the actual charge. So, yeah, I read that right? And we can break the link, and the relic has charges. A second hit on the same target, it just refreshes it. So that's pretty cool, man. Especially if you are Ares, right? Hit 2 chains and then tether 2 chains. That'd be pretty cool. That's pretty very cool idea. So heroic teleport. Now, normally I would say that this is not really an arena type relic, right? But there's something interesting about this one, and I have never tried it, so it might work, so we'll see. But it says using this item allows you to teleport to any allied structure, where it's not really going to do anything for us in arena. But here's the interesting part: or ward while rooted in place. This effect is not interrupted by any damage, but it can be interrupted by a hard crowd control. After teleporting, you gain slow immunity, 20% movement speed, and 40 protections for 10 seconds. The cooldown has been decreased from 160 to 130, so they reduce the cooldown by 30 seconds. Now, the thing I find interesting about this is we have a bracer of radiance, right? It pops a sentry ward. So I wonder, and I'll have to test this once it goes live, if you can actually use this as an escape to pop this and actually teleport to the nearest sentry ward or a bracer of radiance type ward. I wonder if that'll work like that. I don't know. If it doesn't, then it's pretty much useless in arena. But if it does, man, that could be a really nice Hemdlir type teleport that any character could use as an escape or as a initiator, right? To sneak attack a bunch of enemies that are not paying attention around your Bracer of Radiance ward. So that's pretty interesting, man. If that works the way I hope it does, that can definitely open up the possibilities to some really nice strategic gameplay. So persistent teleport. Using this item does the same thing as the other one, but the only difference of this one is you don't get obviously the added benefits as the previous one, but kills and assists on enemy gods reduce the cooldown of this by 10 seconds. So you only pretty much get the teleport. And then, like I said, if you get an assist or something, it reduces the cooldown so you can use this a lot easier. I'm telling you, that heroic teleport, though, that is definitely very interesting. I'm definitely going to have to check that out once it goes live to see if it does work the way I hope it does. But yeah, man, that's pretty much everything for the relics in arena. As you saw, there is a lot. I'm talking a lot to cover, and that's just the relic portions of this. In episode 2, we'll go into the actual item buffs that are just as long, if not longer, than this list, right? And then in episode 3, we'll go into the various different other changes that we didn't cover with the relics and the items, mostly the god changes. But just keep in mind that this new Season 9 update goes into effect January 25th. Again, I hope this video wasn't too long, and I hope you actually got some information out of it. Again, I've been sick the last 3 days. I got that 3rd COVID shot, and it's really knocked me on my butt. So I was finally able to crawl out of bed this morning and finish putting together my studio in the new house, and actually at least drink enough coffee to give me energy to actually do this video. But hey, man, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and keep a lookout for episode 2 and episode 3 that's going to be coming out very soon. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I'm Dark Garza, your OG on the GC. See you next time.